Good morning and welcome to the May 2024, almost Memorial Day, open meeting of the Federal Communications Commission. Madam Secretary, would you please introduce our agenda this morning?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Good morning to you. Good morning, Commissioners. For today's meeting, you will be presented with one item and two enforcement actions for your consideration. First, you will consider a notice of proposed rulemaking to strengthen requirements and oversight relating to telecommunications certification bodies and measurement facilities to help ensure the integrity of these entities for purposes of our equipment authorization program, to better protect national security and to advance the Commission's comprehensive strategy to build a more secure and resilient communications supply chain. Second, you will consider an enforcement action, and third, you will consider an enforcement action. This is your agenda for today. Today's first item is titled Promoting the Integrity and Security of Telecommunications Certification Bodies, Measurement Facilities, and the Equipment Authorization Program, and will be presented by the Office of Engineering and Technology. Dana Schaefer, Deputy Chief and Chief of Staff of the Office of Engineering and Technology, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Ms. Schaefer, please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. OET is pleased to present for your consideration a notice of proposed rulemaking that proposes and seeks comment on additional steps the Commission should take to promote the integrity and security of telecommunications certification bodies, known as TCBs, and measurement facilities, commonly known as test labs. Over the years, the Commission has delegated very important responsibilities to these TCBs and test labs to implement the Commission's Equipment Authorization Program. In light of an evolving national security landscape, the Commission in this NPRM takes a close look at how best to ensure that these entities can meet the challenge of helping the Commission ensure that untrusted equipment is kept out of U.S. networks. The NPM builds upon many ongoing Commission, congressional, and executive branch efforts to protect our nation's communications supply chain from equipment and services that raise national security concerns. In 2022, the Commission adopted major changes to its equipment authorization program to prohibit the authorization of communications equipment that, pursuant to the Secure and Trusted Communications Networks Act of 2019, has been placed on the Commission's covered list because that equipment poses an unacceptable risk to national security or the security of U.S. persons. More recently, the Commission has taken steps in other proceedings, including its evolving risk order in NPRM last year concerning Section 214 international authorizations, and in its cybersecurity IoT labeling report and order adopted in March of this year to protect communications networks and supply chains. To quote our chair, if I may, the security of our communications networks matters more than ever before. On behalf of our entire team, I would like to thank the Chairwoman and her staff, and a special thanks to Commissioner Carr and his staff for their vision and their leadership on this very important step to ensuring the security of our equipment authorization program. In the trenches, at the table with me today, are Paul Murray, Associate Chief of OET, and Jamie Coleman, who is a branch chief in our Policy and Rules Division. Mr. Murray will now present the item.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. The notice of proposed rulemaking before you proposes new rules, and it seeks comment on various additional actions aimed at further ensuring the integrity of TCBs and test labs that serve important roles as part of the Commission's Equipment Authorization Program. Specifically, TCBs and test labs, each of which must be recognized by the FCC in order to participate in our program, help ensure that equipment that is authorized for marketing in or importation to the United States complies with all applicable rules concerning communications equipment, including those designed to protect national security. Since November of 2022, the Commission's Equipment Authorization Program rules include specific requirements designed to prevent authorization of equipment that raises national security concerns. And as Dana has said, national security, and the Chairwoman, national security threats concerning equipment continue to evolve. Accordingly, the integrity of our equipment authorization program and those entities that participate in and play important roles in this program is critical to ensuring that our nation's communications networks and supply chains are protected against threats that raise national security concerns. The NPRM starts by building on national security concerns addressed on the Commission's covered list, first established in 2021. This list, which has been updated since, identifies communications equipment and services that are produced and provided by particular entities or their subsidiaries and affiliates, and which has been already determined by Congress and certain executive branch agencies as posing an unacceptable risk to national security. Accordingly, the NPRM proposes to prohibit from participation in our equipment authorization program any TCB or any test lab in which any of the entities identified on the Commission's covered list has direct or indirect ownership or control of 10% or more. And consistent with this proposal, the Commission directs the Office of Engineering and Technology to suspend FCC recognition of any test lab or TCB directly or indirectly owned or controlled by any entity on the covered list. Next, the NPRM seeks comment on the extent to which the Commission should look beyond the covered list to impose eligibility restrictions for TCBs and test lab based on various other lists that have been developed by executive branch agencies and to reflect those agencies' expert determinations about specific entities that raise national security concerns. These lists include the Commerce Department's Foreign Adversaries List, the Department of Defense's Chinese Military Companies List, the Commerce Department's Entity List, as well as other lists that have been developed by executive branch agencies responsible for assessing particular national security concerns. Further, the NPRM proposes new information collection on ownership regarding TCBs and test labs. As set forth in the NPRM, the Commission's goal here is to strengthen oversight of the equipment authorization program in an evolving national security landscape and to protect the nation's telecommunications infrastructure and communication supply chains from threats. Specifically, the Commission proposes to require TCBs and test labs report any entity that holds a 5% or greater direct or indirect equity and or voting interest in them. Now, the Commission already collects ownership information in other proceedings in which it seeks to identify direct and indirect ownership or control in order to address national security, competition, and other concerns, such as in the context of satellite licenses, Section 214 authorizations, media ownership, wireless spectrum licenses, and auction bidding credits. This information collection also would be consistent with certain executive branch agency collection of such information. And finally, the notice seeks comment on various other revisions to the rules concerning TCBs and test labs, with the goal of further implementing any action that the Commission takes in this proceeding to promote the integrity of TCBs and test labs. With regard to TCBs, for instance, the NPRM seeks comment on potential revisions to the post-market surveillance rules to ensure that equipment that poses national security concerns has not been erroneously authorized. The notice also seeks ways to strengthen the rules concerning the periodic accreditation of TCBs, the FCC recognition of TCBs, and the withdrawal of FCC recognition of any TCB that does not comply with any of the newly adopted requirements. Similarly, with regard to test labs, the Commission requests comment on rules for accreditation and FCC recognition of test labs and FCC withdrawal of recognition of any test lab that violates the Commission requirements, including those that may be adopted in this proceeding. Staff recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges solely for technical and conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear comments from the bench. We start with Commissioner Carr.
Thanks. Over the last several years, the United States has worked in a bipartisan manner to reorient our nation's approach to the serious threats posed by foreign adversaries. In particular, a broad cross-section of lawmakers and government officials alike have been working to address the enormous risks posed by the Communist Party of China. At this point, the CCP has a well-documented record of leveraging its control over aligned companies and using them to advance the CCP's malign goals, from surveillance to corporate espionage to IP theft. We've seen this in spades in the telecommunications and technology sectors in particular. The FCC has played an important role in our government-wide initiative to safeguard our networks against these and other types of threats from bad actors. Former FCC Chairman Pai and Chairwoman Rosenworcel each deserve recognition for their work on this front. As a country, we've taken significant actions across the entire network stack. At the device layer, we've taken action, for instance, on entities like Huawei and ZTE. At the carrier level, we've taken action on carriers like China Mobile. And at the application layer, with recent congressional action on TikTok, the U.S. government has also acted there as well. Now, the FCC extends those efforts today by taking a look at the system the FCC relies on as part of our process for reviewing and approving all electronics for use in the U.S. This proposal, which I've been pleased to work on alongside Chairwoman Rosenworcel, will ensure that the test labs and certification bodies that review electronic devices for compliance with the FCC's equipment authorization rules are themselves trustworthy actors that the FCC can rely on. Now, despite their relatively low public profile, there's hundreds of these entities that play an important role in evaluating whether electronic devices that emit RF operate effectively and meet other FCC requirements. And this covers a broad cross-section of consumer electronics, from IoT devices, smartphones, fitness trackers, baby monitors, to network equipment itself, things like routers and base stations. Historically, the FCC's eligibility criteria for test labs and TCP has focused on impartiality and technical competence, rather than focusing specifically on factors that may be relevant to national security considerations. But the need for this type of review has increased in recent years. Indeed, in 2022, the FCC adopted rules that bar entities on the FCC's covered list from having their devices approved for use in the U.S. due to national security risks. And we've expressed concern about the practice of white labeling devices, where someone can slap a new name on a Huawei box in an effort to sneak it through the FCC's equipment authorization process. So to complement our ongoing efforts on this front, the FCC's proposal today will ensure that TCBs and test labs that review equipment for use in the U.S. are themselves trustworthy. And our concerns here are well-founded. After identifying a test lab in Guangdong, China, affiliated with Huawei, the FCC rejected a request to renew the lab's authorization just last month. Correctly so. A further review, though, of the FCC's list of approved test labs reveals that there's other entities with deep ties to the CCP. This list includes entities that are affiliated with Chinese state-owned enterprises, entities that appear to play a significant role in support of the CCP's People's Liberation Army, as well as at least some PRC government agencies themselves. FCC records indicate that those labs have processed thousands of applications for US-bound devices over the last several years. It's possible that other FCC-authorized TCBs and test labs may be affiliated with foreign adversary governments or entities determined by the US government to pose an unacceptable risk, which is why it is very worthwhile for us to initiate this type of inquiry. For my part, I'm grateful again to the Chairwoman for moving this proposal forward. The initiative itself is based on time-tested precedent. We have a long history at the FCC of limiting foreign control of US licensees in other contexts. And the FCC proposal that we're looking at would look at official security determinations that the U.S. government has made, such as Commerce's entity lists, DoD's list of Chinese military companies. And we also explore regulations that could better align our rules with the Secure Equipment Act's relevant provisions. So thanks again to Paul, to Dana, to Jamie, to your teams, to the Public Safety Bureau, and to the full team that worked on this important item. Thanks again to the chair, and it has my support.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Commissioner Starks.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Electronic devices, or in FCC parlance, radio frequency devices, from cell phones to computers to baby monitors, garage openers, televisions, are an integral part of our daily lives. Before these devices reach where we live, where we work, where we play, our rules require RF devices to be properly authorized. These rules ensure that RF devices operate effectively without causing harmful interference and otherwise comply with our requirements. And over the last several years, we have undertaken significant efforts to protect the security of our communication networks and devices. We've updated equipment authorization rules to prohibit communications equipment identified on the covered list by stopping equipment identified as a threat to the United States from entering our markets. We decrease the risk that it can be used against us. And so today I am glad to support the proposal to update our rules governing TCBs and test labs to further protect Americans and ensure that our equipment authorization processes themselves are sound and not undermined by the very entities that help us to enforce them. TCBs and test labs play a critical role, as we heard, in approving tens of thousands of equipment authorizations every year. They're located all across the globe. TCBs and test labs help ensure that the equipment we approve complies with our rules and regulations and that any prohibited equipment is kept out of our nation's supply chain. They are an important line of defense. To that end, TCBs and test labs acting on our behalf must be trustworthy, impartial, and free from influence. Their ability to do so may be compromised if they're associated with any untrustworthy entity or adversarial state that seeks to compromise our networks or communication supply chain. I note that this proposal is consistent with our efforts very recently on the Cyber Trust Mark. There we actually highlighted the importance of test labs to ensure that IoT devices receiving the mark are not compromised. And so, as the record develops, I'm open, eager to hearing comments on how these changes may affect the overall ecosystem here, given the national security interests at stake, including with regard to the mutual recognition agreements that we have negotiated throughout the world aimed at creating a standardized global approach to conformity assessments. This has been fantastic work by the team. Thank you to the chairwoman for her leadership. Thank you to Commissioner Carr for his vision and leadership on this as well. Has my strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I'm happy to approve today's NPRM that continues the FCC's quest to protect our nation's communication supply chains from entities posing national security threats. It's only appropriate that we take this next very important step to prohibit Chinese and other covered list provider-owned and controlled TCBs and test labs from participating in our equipment authorization program. With the increased complexity and security surface of equipment authorization, this development is timely and welcome. So I'd like to particularly thank Chairwoman Rosenworcel and Commissioner Carr for their leadership on this item, and of course, express my appreciation to OET and OET staff for their very thorough work in getting us to this point.
And Commissioner Gomez, coming to us through the wonder of modern communications.
Good morning, Madam Chair. So the fast pace of creativity and innovation in wireless technology demands that we put in place the right authorization system to support this technology reaching consumers. The wireless devices that are common in your life were reviewed in one of the nearly 640 FCC recognized accredited test labs around the world and certified by one of the 40 recognized telecommunications certification bodies. In this age of wireless proliferation, we must remain vigilant of technology and actors infiltrating our wireless infrastructure to cause harm. The Commission's Equipment Authorization Program rules already prohibit authorization of equipment that has been determined to pose an unacceptable risk to national security and our safety. With today's NPRM, we seek to strengthen our oversight of the test labs and telecommunications certification bodies that review and certify the wireless equipment that flows into the stream of commerce in our nation. So today we begin important and necessary steps to ensure that our equipment authorization program to support rapid and flexible wireless innovation is not subject to influence or control by actors that pose a risk to our security. This is an important NPRM, and I look forward to the record developing. And I want to thank the Office of Engineering and Technology and the team for its important work, as well as to the Chairwoman and Commissioner Carr for their leadership.
Thank you, commissioners. Our wireless future is about connecting everything. It is about opening up possibilities for connectivity that we cannot even fully imagine today. By exponentially increasing the connections between people and things around us, wireless technologies are set to become an input in everything we do, improving agriculture, education, healthcare, energy, transportation, and more. At the Federal Communications Commission, we have a front row seat because every day we get to see how these innovations are changing our world. We also see how important it is that every one of these connections is secure. For decades, the FCC Equipment Authorization Program has been a vital part of ensuring the safety of radio frequency devices in the United States. In fact, we process more than 30,000 new device authorizations every year, resulting in millions and millions of new wireless products. That's a lot of Wi-Fi routers, sensors, smartphones, and baby monitors. We check them and other devices that connect using our airwaves to make sure that they do so safely, without harmful interference, and in a manner that complies with our rules. Now, to keep this process moving along, the FCC has authorized the use of telecommunications certification bodies, or TCBs. That means innovators bring their new devices to test labs that produce technical reports assessing their products. They then take those reports to TCBs. The TCBs, in turn, evaluate this information and determine if the new products comply with FCC rules. And if they do, the TCB can certify the device under our Equipment Authorization Program. So this process has worked well. But as the number of wireless connections around us multiply and the importance of the security of those connections matters more than ever before, this system needs an update. And that's what we propose to do here. This action is part of a broader effort at this agency to make network security a priority. For the first time in history, we have revoked the authorization of Chinese state-affiliated carriers that have been identified as a national security threat. We have built a first-of-its-kind program to remove insecure foreign equipment from our nation's communications networks. We have revamped our policies for assessing the security of proposed undersea cables for the first time in 20 years. And we're proposing new measures to address the insecurities in border gateway protocol, which can be used by malicious foreign actors to hijack internet traffic. On top of that, we now publish an updated covered list of communications equipment and services that pose an unacceptable risk to national security. We exclude this equipment from our universal service programs. We also prevent its processing in our equipment authorization program. Now, with these efforts in the background, this rulemaking does three things to update our security policies and practices with respect to TCBs and test labs. First, we propose to prohibit all entities on the covered list from owning or controlling TCBs or test labs. As part of this effort, we have already suspended the approval of a test lab operated by Huawei, and we have flagged for our national security colleagues other labs with possible ties to the government of the People's Republic of China. Second, we seek comment on prohibiting the recognition of TCBs and test labs owned or controlled by a foreign adversary or any other entity that has been found to pose a risk by national security agencies. And third, to implement these changes, we propose to collect information on the ownership and control of TCBs and test labs. The pace at which we are seeing new technologies that depend on wireless connections helps spur this effort. But so did a recommendation from Commissioner Carr, who rightfully and thoughtfully suggested that our practices needed an update. I want to thank him for his close collaboration. Our equipment authorization program will be more secure because of it. Thank you also to my other colleagues and to the many staff who worked on this rulemaking, and get ready because it's a long list. Reza Baizarian, Jamie Coleman, David Duarte, Paul Murray, Siobhan Philemon, Ron Rapazzi, Dana Schaefer, Ross Slutsky, Jim Seliga, George Tannehill, and Krista Witnowski from the Office of Engineering and Technology, Justin Kane, Michael Connolly, David Firth, Jessica Hajnowski, Deborah Jordan, Zenji Nakazawa, and Sonia Rodriguez, and Jim Schlichting from the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. Sabur Chabra, Lloyd Coward, Susan Mort, and Roger Noel from the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau, Shannon Lipp and Jeremy Marcus from the Enforcement Bureau, Patrick Brogan, Rachel Kazan, Cheryl Lee, Kenneth Lynch, Catherine Maltrace, Mark Montano, Eric Salvanora, Michelle Schaefer, Donald Stockdale, Patrick Sun, and Emily Talaga from the Office of Economics and Analytics, Edward Carlson, Jared Carlson, Denise Coca, Kathleen Collins, Olga Madruga Forti, Neshe Gundelsberger, Francis Gutierrez, Gabrielle Kim, David Kresh, Ethan Lucarelli, Brandon Moss, and Thomas Sullivan from the Office of International Affairs, Michael Gasso and Joy Ragsdale from the Office of Communications Business Opportunities, and Marlene Dorch and Keturah Jackson from the Office of the Secretary. And with that, we will have a vote on the item. Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
Commissioner Gomez.
Approve.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges as requested. Madam Secretary, may you please announce the next item on today's agenda?
Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners, items 2 and 3 on your agenda are enforcement actions and will be presented by the Enforcement Bureau. Loyana Gal, Chief of the Bureau, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Because these items are enforcement actions, we're going to switch the order up just as the Commission has done in past cases that involve similar presentations at an open meeting. As with all open meeting items, the Bureau circulated these items to every commissioner at least 3 weeks ago. But there is a long-standing practice at the agency that we do not publicly disclose parties of enforcement matters unless and until the Commission decides to take action. For these types of items, this means that the agency formally votes on the item. Then here's a brief presentation from the Bureau before proceeding to any statements that the commissioners may have. This process ensures that these sensitive matters will not be publicly disclosed until the FCC votes to take action. And we're going to follow that precedent here. So we will now proceed to a vote on these enforcement actions. On item 2, Commissioner Carr.
Approve.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Approve.
Commissioner Gomez.
Approved.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges if requested. On item 3, Commissioner Carr.
Concur.
Commissioner Starks.
Approve.
Commissioner Symington.
Concur.
Commissioner Gomez.
Approved.
The chair votes aye. The item is adopted with editorial privileges if requested. Now, thank you, commissioners. Mr. Egal, please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. Thank you for your consideration and your votes on today's items. The first item is a notice of apparent liability for forfeiture against Steve Kramer, who's responsible for effectuating an illegal, malicious, spoofed robocall scheme that used generative artificial intelligence technology to interfere in this past January's New Hampshire primary election. The Bureau worked closely with its law enforcement partners and the industry traceback group to identify the source of the illegal traffic, shut it down, and hold Kramer accountable. The Bureau takes seriously the threat posed to the public by the misuse of generative AI technology, and this action sends a strong message that we will utilize all of our enforcement tools to ensure that U.S. telecommunications networks are not used to facilitate that misuse. With me at the table today are Rakesh Patel, Deputy Bureau Chief, Jane Van Benton, Deputy Division Chief in the Telecommunications Consumers Division, Daniel Stepanisic, Assistant Division Chief in the Telecommunications Consumers Division, and Rahul Rojo, Attorney Advisor in Telecommunications Consumer Division. Rahul will now present the first item.
Thank you, Leon. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. This notice of apparent liability for forfeiture finds Steve Kramer apparently liable for thousands of spoofed robocalls to potential voters in the state of New Hampshire 2 days before the state's 2024 primary election, in apparent violation of Sections 227E of the Communications Act of 1934 and Section 60 and Section 64.1604 of the Commission's rules. We propose a forfeiture of $6 million. On January 21st, 2024, 2 days before the New Hampshire primary election, Steve Kramer, a political consultant, launched an apparently illegal robocall campaign comprised of 9,581 calls that targeted potential New Hampshire voters. The robocalls played an artificial intelligence-generated voice message, what is commonly referred to as a deepfake message, imitating the voice of President Biden. The deepfake message instructed recipients to save their votes for the November presidential election. Kramer knowingly caused the calls to transmit a misleading and inaccurate caller ID. He knew the caller ID he used was not associated with the call campaign. It was instead associated with a local political operative who had no awareness of Kramer's scheme. Kramer intended to both defraud and cause harm. He intended to prevent recipients from voting by falsely conveying that the president was advising them not to vote, and by falsely representing the calls came from a phone number of the local political operative. He intended to harm voters by convincing them to forgo exercising their right to vote, and intended to harm the political operative by purposefully subjecting them to a stream of unsettling and confusing callbacks from deceived call recipients. The notice proposes a base forfeiture of $1,000 per each of the 3,000 calls that we verified, with an additional 100% upward adjustment for egregiousness, for a total forfeiture of $6 million. For these reasons, and the additional details laid out in the notice, the Enforcement Bureau appreciates the Commission's adoption of this item and requests a grant of editorial privileges for conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. The second item is a notice of apparent liability for forfeiture against Lingo Telecom, LLC. The call authentication framework, known as Stir Shaken, is a vital component in the fight against illegally spoofed robocalls. Providers that fail to employ reasonable know your customer protocols and incorrectly sign traffic undermine the integrity of Stir Shaken and introduce vulnerabilities that bad actors can take advantage of to cause harm. This item today demonstrates the harm caused by incorrect attestations to the public and why we must take appropriate enforcement action. Daniel Stepanisic will now present the second item.
Thank you, Leon. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Commissioners. The notice of apparent liability for forfeiture finds Lingo Telecom, LLC apparently liable for providing incorrect Stir-Shaken attestations to thousands of spoofed robocalls in apparent violation of the Commission's rules codified in Section 64.6301A. False or incorrect attestations undermine years of regulatory and industry efforts to enable caller ID authentication and diminish the integrity of the Stir-Shaken framework. As we explained, potential New Hampshire voters received thousands of spoofed robocalls that played an artificial intelligence-generated voice message imitating the voice of President Biden on January 21st, 2024. The investigation determined that Lingo Telecom was the originating provider for a number of these calls, in other words, the first provider in the call path. Lingo Telecom identified LifeCorp as the party that transmitted the calls to Lingo. In turn, Life identified that its affiliate, Voice Broadcasting Corp., which offers to call a targeted list of your prospects and play your message to them, and with which Life shares common ownership and control, use Life services and equipment to transmit the calls to an originating provider. Voice Broadcasting transmitted the calls on behalf of its client, Steve Kramer. These calls spoofed the caller ID to display a number associated with a local political operative with no affiliation to Steve Kramer. Lingo Telecom signed each of these spoofed calls with an A-level attestation, the highest possible attestation level, essentially indicating Lingo Telecom had confirmed the calling number was accurate, when in fact it was not. The Commission's rules require that a voice service provider shall fully implement the STIR/SHAKEN framework in its Internet Protocol networks. Voice service providers are obligated to comply with, at a minimum, the version of the STIR/SHAKEN standards of ADIS 10,074, ADIS 10,080, and ADIS 10,084. As described in ADIS 10,074, an A-level attestation means that the signing provider, one, is responsible for the origination of the call onto the IP-based service provider voice network, two, has a direct authenticated relationship with the customer and can identify the customer, and three, has established a verified association with the telephone number used for the call. Lingo Telecom did not verify that its customer, Life, had the right to use the number displayed as caller ID and subsequently provided A-level attestations to thousands of calls. This is an example of glaringly deficient Know Your Customer or KYC practices. Lingo Telecom accepted at face value that Life had a verified association with the telephone number used for the calls without taking a single step to verify that Life's assertions about the caller ID information were accurate in relation to the calls. Thus, Lingo Telecom apparently failed to adhere to ADIS 10,074 and the Commission's rules. The notice proposes a base forfeiture of $1,000 per each of the 2,000 calls that were verified for apparent violations of the rules, for a total forfeiture of $2 million. For these reasons and additional details laid out in the notice, the Enforcement Bureau appreciates the Commission's adoption of this item and requests the grant of editorial privileges for conforming edits. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear comments from the bench. Commissioner Carr.
Thanks. No specific statement on item 2, but I have one on item 3. And at the outset, obviously, I agree that the FCC needs to continue its efforts to crack down on illegal robocalls. They're an unquestionable scourge, not only an annoyance to so many Americans, but also a way that bad actors can perpetuate frauds. In this case, it's apparent that the person who orchestrated this robocall scheme violated the FCC's rules, and I voted to approve of that NAL. With respect to the voice service provider that the caller used to originate those calls, the FCC alleges here that they failed to implement STIR/SHAKEN, and the agency's argument is not that the voice service provider took no steps to implement STIR/SHAKEN. Rather, the NAL alleges that the steps they took to implement the framework failed to apply the correct attestation level, as we heard in the presentation. I think these are allegations that we need to take seriously. I think they require careful review, and I'll be focused on ensuring that the FCC, at the same time, doesn't end up undertaking rulemaking through enforcement by creating new substantive obligations that go beyond the standards that have previously been set forth in our existing rules. We need to be careful at the end of the day that we don't undermine reasonable reliance on prior FCC decisions and spring enforcement on parties seeking to comply in good faith. With that said, NALs are not final decisions on the merits. There's clearly enough evidence here, in my view, for the agency to move forward, and I'll keep an open mind as the FCC reviews the record in this proceeding. So thanks to the team for your work.
Thank you. Commissioner Starks.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This January, just 2 days before the New Hampshire primary election, Steve Kramer orchestrated an illegal robocall campaign. He targeted thousands of voters, and his message was one of the most anti-democratic things a person can push and peddle in our society, and that is don't vote. But who, of course, would listen to Steve Kramer? So he used the voice of the President of the United States, deployed from the phone number of a New Hampshire political operative. It took the help of an acquaintance, publicly available software technology, and $150. And with that, Kramer generated a deepfake recording of the President telling eligible voters to stay at home on Election Day. But that alone wasn't enough to get this message out so far. For years, we have been building safeguards into our telephone networks to block illegal calls before they reach your phone. But it was Lingo Telecom the company that originated many of the calls at issue here that did not follow legally required safeguards. It passed on Kramer's call associated with the spoofed caller ID information with the highest level of attestation available under STIR/SHAKEN, an A-level attestation, and it verified relationship between the spoof number and the party that transmitted the calls to Lingo that did not exist and that it should have known did not exist. That, of course, smoothed the way and enabled those calls to make their way to thousands of voters across the state. So today's notice of apparent liability detail each of these steps, and I emphasize them. And that is to show that the combination of these events that can have devastating effects. Had Kramer not been able to duplicate President Biden's voice so easily, this may have had less impact. Voice cloning is a significant threat to the trust and integrity of our phone systems. And that is why days, of course, after Kramer's actions, the FCC swiftly and unanimously, I might add, issued a declaratory ruling making clear that calls using voice cloning technologies fall under the requirements and penalties of the TCPA. And had Lingo not rubber-stamped so many of these calls, it could have limited the consequences of Kramer's scheme. And that is why today we use the authority granted to us by Congress in the Truth in Caller ID Act and the Traced Act to propose forfeitures against both sides of this equation. Thank you, as always, to the Enforcement Bureau for your hard work here. Prompt, dedicated investigations are critical, and we're done here. As always with robocall cases, it's worth mentioning that the collaboration of state, federal, industry partners was key. This investigation, of course, was conducted in coordination with the New Hampshire Attorney General's Office, the Bipartisan Anti-Robocall Multi-State Litigation Task Force, the Department of Justice, the Industry Traceback Group. Thank you to all of the partnership of those bodies. Thank you to the Chairwoman for her continued leadership here in building these collaborative relationships and efforts that have proven and helped vindicate the American people here today under the allegations that we've heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Symington.
Thank you. I have a longer statement for the record. I concur with the majority while noting that the FCC must immediately act to establish clear know your customer standards for voice providers to prevent an unnecessary chilling effect on parties required to use STIR/SHAKEN. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Today, the Commission is proposing forfeitures to address actions that harm consumers. We find that Mr. Steve Kramer apparently acted with the intent to defraud New Hampshire voters by misleading them about their voting rights. Lingo Telecom, through its apparently lax observation of our consumer protection requirements, permitted Mr. Kramer's apparently fraudulent scheme to take place. This is significant. The apparent actions of Mr. Kramer not only harmed New Hampshire voters, but compromised trust in democracy itself. The apparent actions of Lingo failed to adequately identify spoofed robocalls. The actions at issue today exemplify AI technology being harnessed for harm. The consequences for consumers and the threat to our democratic processes warrant a strong response. That is why the proposed penalties are so important, as the Commission must do what we can within our power to deter scams manipulating AI to prey on consumers and to threaten our democratic processes. Thank you to the Enforcement Bureau and all staff of the FCC that contributed to these important enforcement items. And now I would like to give my remarks in Spanish. La Comisión propone hoy confiscaciones para actividades que prejudician a los consumidores. Hemos detectado que el señor Steve Kramer actuó aparentemente con la intención de defraudar a los electores de New Hampshire, engañándolos en relación con su derecho a voto. Kramer transmitió miles de llamadas automáticas usando una voz idéntica a la del presidente Biden, generada con inteligencia artificial, instruyendo a los electores para que no acudieran a votar en las elecciones primarias. También hallamos que Lingo Telecom, mediante su aparentemente laxa aplicación de los requisitos de protección al consumidor establecidos por la FCC, permitió que se llevara a cabo la maniobra aparentemente fraudulente del señor Kramer. Todo esto es relevante. Las aparentes acciones de Kramer no solo son perjudiciales a los electores de New Hampshire, sino que también afectan la confianza en la democracia. Las aparentes acciones de Lingo no lograron identificar adecuadamente las llamadas automáticas falsificadas. En febrero de este año, adoptamos una resolución declaratoria confirmando que la prohibición de usar voz artificial o pregrabada para realizar llamadas automáticas también incluye a tecnologías de inteligencia artificial que imiten voces humanas. Las actividades en cuestión hoy ejemplifican el uso de la tecnología de inteligencia artificial para causar daño. Las consecuencias para los consumidores y la amenaza que estas actividades representan para nuestros procesos democráticos justifican una respuesta contundente. Por eso las sanciones propuestas son tan importantes, ya que la Comisión debe hacer todo lo que esté a su alcance para desalentar a los estafadores que manipulan la inteligencia artificial con el propósito de aprovecharse de los consumidores, amenazando nuestros procesos democráticos. Agradecemos a la Oficina de Aplicación de Normas o the Enforcement Bureau, y a todo el personal de la FCC por esta acción. Gracias.
Thank you, Commissioners. Last year in Nigeria, a clip manipulated with artificial intelligence spread far and wide. It showed a presidential candidate scheming to rig ballots. In Slovakia, people across the country heard a manipulated audio clip of an opposition candidate supporting both election fraud and an effort to raise the price of beer. But there's no need to travel to far-off lands to see how AI can sow confusion. Because this year in the United States, a fraudulent campaign targeted voters in New Hampshire. It used AI-generated voice cloning to mimic an unauthorized message from President Biden 2 days before the primary election in the state. This is unnerving. Because when a caller sounds like a politician you know, a celebrity you like, or a family member you're familiar with, any one of us could be tricked into believing that something is not true with calls using AI technology. It is exactly how the bad actors behind these junk calls with manipulated voices want you to react. So when we saw this happen here on our shores, we acted fast. The Federal Communications Commission unanimously issued a declaratory ruling that made clear that artificial or pre-recorded voice robocalls using AI voice cloning technology violate the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. We partnered in this effort with state attorneys general, including the New Hampshire Attorney General, who is one of 49 state attorneys general who have signed up to us with a memorandum of understanding to work with us on junk robocalls. This ruling matters because it gives our state colleagues the right to go after bad actors behind these calls and seek damages under the law. Then we worked with carriers to trace those responsible for this calling campaign, and when we found the carrier behind it, we immediately sent a cease and desist letter and notified all other carriers to go ahead and stop carrying this traffic. Today, we tie up our investigation into these New Hampshire calls with 2 separate actions. First, we hold Steve Kramer responsible for the scam calls he set up to defraud voters using call spoofing technology that violates the Truth in Caller ID Act. This fine is $6 million. Second, we hold Lingo Telecom, the carrier that put these scam calls on the line, responsible for failing to follow our call authentication policies. This fine is $2 million. But of course, this is only a start. We know AI technologies are all around and they make it cheap and easy to flood our networks with fake stuff, and they're being used in so many ways here and abroad. It's especially chilling to see them used in elections. That is why yesterday I shared with my colleagues a proposal to require election advertisements in the United States to simply disclose if they use AI technology. I think as these tools become more accessible, every one of us has a right to know. But back to the enforcement actions before us. They are the result of fast work and valuable partnerships. A special thank you goes to New Hampshire Attorney General John Formella and his staff for assistance with this investigation. I also want to thank the agency staff for their work, including Leonie Gall, Jermaine Haynes, Peter Hyun, Balki Labor, Ryan McDonald, Rakesh Patel, Raul Rojo, Daniel Stepanisic, Christy Thompson, and Jane Van Benton from the Enforcement Bureau, Eric Beath, Elizabeth Drugula, Jonathan Lecter, and Zachary Ross from the Wireline Competition Bureau, Jerusha Burnett and Christy Thornton from the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau, Richard Mallon, Erica Olson, Joel Rabinowitz, and Derek Yeo from the Office of General Counsel, and Ed Courig and Kenneth Lynch from the Office of Economics and Analytics. And with that, I am going to ask each of my colleagues if they have any announcements specific to their office at this time. Commissioner Carr.
I do.
Okay.
And I'm ready this time. We do have 2 interns for the summer that I wanted to introduce. They have already hit the ground running and really appreciate their service. I'm trying to orient. There they are. First up is Allison Howell. Allison is a rising 3L at Pepperdine's Caruso School of Law, having completed her undergrad at the University of Colorado Boulder. While at law school, Allison interned for a federal judge in the Southern District of Texas and worked as a research assistant for a constitutional law professor, a skill set that we hope to rely on in our work ahead. If she looks familiar, Allison participated in Pepperdine's DC program last semester, and she interned full-time here at the FCC with some stints both in the Wireless and Wireline Bureau. So great that she has that experience. And upon graduating from Pepperdine, she hopes to make her way back to DC as well. Next up in our office is Matthew Hamilton. Matthew is a rising 2L at the University of Virginia School of Law, and he graduated from Stanford University, where he studied economics. He first interned in DC, here again at the FCC, in the Office of Economics and Analytics as a junior in college. He was trying the Doogie Howser route, I think, into tech and telecom, so good luck with that. He then returned to DC after graduating and worked on the Senate Commerce Committee for then ranking member, Senator Roger Wicker. And he spent 1.5 years with the committee working on communications, technology, and consumer protection issues. So we are very grateful that both of them have joined us and look forward to all their good contributions and counsel. Thanks.
Announcements, Commissioner Starks. Commissioner Symington.
Unusually for me, I do actually have some announcements. So, first of all, I'd like to welcome back Sarah Ramju to my office. She's joining my team full-time as policy advisor and confidential assistant. She was initially on my team as an intern in May 2023. She is a law student at Catholic University's Columbus School of Law, where she's working towards her JD with a concentration in law and technology, which I understand is a fairly popular program. Prior to law school, she attended American University's Kogod School of Business for her MBA. Second, Michael Sweeney, a familiar face, is going to be staying on as policy advisor and handle matters additionally before the Enforcement, Public Safety and Homeland Security and the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureaus, as well as cybersecurity and emerging tech issues. Prior to joining my team, Mr. Sweeney was in the White House Office of Presidential Personnel. He's also served at HUD, so U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and in the U.S. House of Representatives. And he earned his bachelor's degree from the George Washington University. Finally, for those of you wondering how the other portfolios are adjusting, Adam Cassidy, who's presently my media advisor, will also take on matters before the Wireline Competition Bureau, in addition to his present media bureau duties. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Gomez, any announcements?
Thank you, Chairwoman. I don't have any announcements, but I did want to give some remarks about Ethan, if that's possible.
How about you let me go ahead first so that we can do that? And I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Let me start with 2 retirements because I want to acknowledge them as well. We're going to begin with Doug Young. Doug's a longtime veteran of the Office of Engineering and Technology. He started at the agency working on cross-border coordination. and he later led the project to transition experimental licensing from a paper-based system to an electronic filing system. And in fact, he's been an invaluable part of evolving our experimental licensing program over the past 25 years. More recently, he was a lead engineer responsible for reviewing and granting all kinds of satellite licenses, including lots of things related like launches, rocket recovery, and testing. His efforts evolved here over the years, and really he's been at the forefront of so many technologies that are new and exciting before the agency. So we're going to miss having him around. Leo Serbo is also retiring this month. After 40 years of service, he began in our Denver field office and worked his way up to being the engineer in charge, then a district director, and then the Western Region's deputy regional director. He left the FCC for a bit, but then he returned to the Denver field office for a few more years as an agent. We thank him for so many years of service, and we hope retirement brings more opportunities for leisure activities, as his colleagues in Denver tell us. He is a well-known pickleball addition. All right, this last announcement, as my colleague Commissioner Gomez alluded to, is a really difficult one. Just 10 days ago, we lost Ethan Lucarelli. He was 42 years old, and I still can't believe it. Ethan was the head of our Office of International Affairs. It was a role he actually helped create. And before that, he served as my legal advisor for 2 years. In fact, he joined my office the very week I started as acting chair. But this loss stings so hard, not really because of any position Ethan held, but because of the person he was. He had an infectious laugh and an endless interest in communications policy around the world, and a willingness to put more stamps in his passport to service that interest than just about any single human being you could ever meet. He was an avid fan of live music and epic when it came to goal setting. In fact, a few years ago, he set a goal of seeing 52 live music shows in 52 weeks, and he was always an overachiever. He told me he saw 54. He loved recommending obscure board games, and he savored the opportunity with traveling to share a good meal or a drink with a colleague. And it was a good way to let off steam, because as the head of our Office of International Affairs, he spent so many hours in stuffy rooms, fiercely negotiating with his counterparts from around the world. And the truth is, they adored him. In the last week, so many officials from so many countries have reached out to me to share their condolences. And I've shared some of that with his wife, Vicki. Ethan wasn't here long enough, but he made such an imprint on all of us. Some years ago, he won an award for his legal services, and he was asked to talk about his guiding principles. He offered 4. Number 1, integrity, because you're only as good as your word. Number 2, cooperation, because everything that's really good is done as a team. Number 3, have fun. And number 4, don't be a jerk. We would all do well to live our lives as Ethan did. We miss him terribly, and he leaves us far too soon. And on a further personal note, I want to acknowledge that the last few weeks have actually been kind of rough. At the start of the month, my father passed away unexpectedly, and it's not easy. And I know that 2 of my colleagues also lost a parent during the last year. So I just want to say I am grateful to so many in and around the FCC who've reached out. Your decency and grace is appreciated. And with that, let me turn it back to you, Commissioner Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you so much for your lovely words. The sudden loss last week of Ethan Lucarelli is both a huge loss to our FCC family and the personal loss of a good friend. I'm lucky to have had the privilege of working with Ethan at our former law firm, at the Department of State as he was standing up the Office of International Affairs, and most recently as a commissioner, where I could appreciate all of his talent, strategic skill, generosity of spirit, and pure joy he brought to bear to a very big job of leading the Commission's international engagement. He worked so hard and he cared so much, particularly for his family and his team at OIA. I will miss him dearly. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment as well to say that I was also deeply saddened by the loss of Ethan, as has been said. He really enjoyed his work. Many in the International Bureau were with him for over a month there in Dubai, where you get to see a certain living with somebody in many ways, especially how hard the team worked, how hard he worked. But I got to sit down with Ethan when we traveled to Cologne, Germany, together to represent the FCC, and we had dinner with staff just across the Rhine River there. And if you sat down with Ethan, he just had an infectious laugh, as the chairwoman said, that I will always remember. And just truly how much he will be missed. And I really mean it when I say he almost was like a diplomat for us in many ways. And so all my best to his wife, Vicky. It really was a sad thing. And his legacy will live on here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to the chair for those great, kind words and remarks. I mean, Ethan was an incredible person. He and I crossed paths. We were baby lawyers together at the same law firms many moons ago now, and he was just an incredible talent and gave so much, as you know, not just to the agency, but of himself. You know, he loved coaching a Telecom moot court competition team every single year at GW. I had the honor of judging that many, many years. He gave a lot of time to that, and his team was always the first or second place team. And again, that's a tremendous amount of work that you're just giving to other people as a mentor, and that's sort of an example of the type of work that he did. So definitely a sad moment. Thanks.
For everything that's been said about Ethan, I regret I didn't know him better. I'm sorry for everyone's losses, and particularly for his family, and they'll be in my and my family's thoughts and prayers.
Thank you to my colleagues. Ethan will really be missed. Madam Secretary, will you please announce the next date for the Commission's monthly agenda meeting?
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Thursday, June 6, 2024.
Thank you. Until then, we stand adjourned.
Hey everyone, any outside conversations, if you could please move them to the foyer. We'd greatly appreciate it. We're going to get started with the Chairwoman's open meeting press conference in a couple minutes. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paloma Perez-Christie. I'm the Director of Office of Media Relations for the FCC. Without further ado, I'm going to welcome Chairwoman Rosenworcel to the podium to answer a few questions from our reporters in the room, and then we'll move on to our Bureau press conference. Chairwoman, microphone's yours.
Thank you so much, Paloma. All right, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I wanted to ask about the pay-fors in Senator Cantwell's spectrum bill. As you know, in part, allowing the FCC to borrow up to $7 billion against future auction revenues. Wondering if you support this approach, if you've advocated for it, because it's caused some controversy.
As you know, the Affordable Connectivity Program helps more than 23 million households in the United States get online and stay online. And it's coming to an end this month, so we will work with anyone and everyone who has ideas about how to continue that program so it can continue and continue to do the good work it has done to date to help close the digital divide.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Sorry to hear of your loss. I was hoping you could talk a bit more about your expectations for AI deepfakes ahead of the election and what the FCC's role on that is expected to be.
Well, any authority that we use is authority that we have under existing law. And today, we took enforcement actions to address the situation in New Hampshire when back in February, voters in New Hampshire received calls using voice cloning technology that purported to be from President Biden, providing misinformation about where and when to vote. So we held responsible the individual behind those calls, and we held responsible the carrier who put that junk on the line. All of this work was done in coordination with the New Hampshire Attorney General, who I understand is also making some announcements about actions related to that situation today. So that's AI and robocalls. Building on this, yesterday I shared with my colleagues a proposal to require AI transparency. It's actually very simple. I proposed that in television and radio advertisements for political candidates, if artificial intelligence technology is used, the fact that it is being used should be disclosed. This builds on longstanding practices under the Communications Act and the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act. Again, we're using our existing laws, and we are addressing artificial intelligence issues underneath them. All right, thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Chairwoman. And with that, I welcome Elena Patton, our Deputy Press Secretary, to the podium, who will be leading our Bureau Press Conference.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. At this time, we'll take questions for the Bureau on the items adopted today. Are there any questions on the OET item for lab tests? Okay. Can we have the OET team up to the...
Hi, thanks. Eva Doe from the Washington Post. So I looked at the list online on the FCC's website for the TCBs. So it looks like there's one in Hong Kong and one in Singapore, none in mainland China now. Is that right? And if so, does that mean, I'm curious if the shutdown of these labs is expected to affect imports from China, or if manufacturers in China are expected to be able to find other labs elsewhere that they can use. Thanks.
Okay, so let me unpack that a little bit. TCBs are telecommunication certification bodies, and they exist only in MRA countries, and currently China is not in a mutual recognition agreement country with us. And your question about labs, can you restate that?
Yeah. Yeah, so the news of the shutdown of these labs with ties to China, does that effectively shut down all labs with China ownership? Or are there still some with China ownership that are viewed as not being connected to the government?
Thank you for that question. This is a proposed rulemaking, and so as the chairwoman pointed out, it does three things. One is it proposes to suspend or revoke recognition of specific labs that are owned or controlled by specific entities on the covered list. And we're talking about 5 specific entities. Beyond that, it seeks comment on whether specific entities that have been found to be or pose an unreasonable risk to national security by other executive agencies should be considered. That's going to build a record from which the commission will make decisions, but it is not today a complete ban on all Chinese labs. It does those 2 things, and the third thing is it seeks ownership information from recognized labs and labs that are going to be applying to be recognized, so the commission can make those determinations.
And sorry, can China-based manufacturers still get their products tested in labs in other countries for import to the U.S. or no?
The United States, our equipment authorization program has hundreds of labs around the world, and keep in mind that we're not talking about Chinese labs being shut down. We're talking about specific proposals today with regard to labs that are owned or controlled by specific entities. So today, one lab has been denied re-recognition. To your question, manufacturers can have their equipment tested by FCC-recognized labs in the United States or in any country where we have recognized labs. So that won't change. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just wanted to ask if there are any substantive changes from the public draft in the version just voted on.
We've just added a few questions that expand on what was asked for, what was asked about. So no, the answer is no real substantive changes, just expansion of the kind of questions that are asked in the context of changing the rules, consistent with the proposals in the NPRM.
Yeah, there are some additional questions with regard to what's called our Supplier's Declaration of Conformity process. That's the closest to a substantive change. I don't think it changes the underlying item, but it does go a little farther in asking questions specifically on the SDOC process. And then there are some other questions that were amplified, but no major substantive changes. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions for our Enforcement Bureau on the items voted today? You have a question on that item? Sure. So I invite the Bureau up.
Hi.
Hi, thanks. Like going forward, how would the FCC sort of identify if there are these kind of AI deepfakes going on? Would it depend on the individual who is faked reporting it and saying this isn't me?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any standard for identifying it, and I think that's an area where there can be further collaboration, public-private, to kind of figure out what is real or what's a deepfake. But for purposes of like something like this investigation, where we had complaints and we were able to work with our partners, our law enforcement partners, to leverage resources to quickly identify, the source of the calls, the fact that the calls were spoofed, and then the content of the message being a deepfake. I think that was just traditional law enforcement collaboration. But I think going forward, there is room to have a public-private discussion about how to identify these issues better.
And on a technical level, is it verifiable if something is an AI deepfake or not?
I don't think we're the ones to do that determination about whether something is a deepfake or not. But I think there are resources to try to identify that, and that's where working with our state and federal partners allows us to better figure out what's going on that end.
Thank you. And that brings an end to the Bureau press conference. I invite Commissioner Carr up to the dais.
Thanks so much. Good to see all of you. I'm really pleased that the FCC has voted on this proposal on bad labs, at least the terminology that I use as a shorthand for the FCC's vote. As we sort of described, we've been engaging the U.S. government on a sort of cross ecosystem effort to make sure that our networks are secure from bad actors. And one potential threat vector is we have a process in place at the U.S. where we rely on labs and TCPs to vet equipment. Historically, it's been about what power levels do they operate at, what spectrum do they operate on, what are the interference characteristics. But we've increasingly, including through the Secure Equipment Act, been introducing the concept of some national security checks into that process. And therefore, I think now it's an appropriate time for the FCC to take a look at whether we need to adopt rules that would put some sort of trustworthiness factor into the consideration about labs being able to continue to operate. As I indicated last month, one lab that is tied to Huawei came up for renewal, and the FCC indicated it would not be renewing that lab. I think that's the right decision, given, again, that Huawei already is placed on the FCC's covered list. So with that, happy to open it up to any questions.
Hi, Commissioner. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, kind of as a follow-on to that, how concerned you are about some networks not being able to finish their projects under rip and replace, and kind of having removed their equipment but not now being able to go back online.
Yeah, this is a concern to me. As you know, the rip and replace program has required that all providers that are participating in the program remove insecure gear, Huawei, and ZTE, and we've made a commitment to fund that. We have about a $3.08 billion shortfall right now, so the obligation to remove it continues, but a lot of rural carriers are running into shortfalls with available funding to replace that equipment. And that's not a good thing from connectivity perspective, from public safety communications perspective. I testified last week alongside the FCC chair before the Appropriations Committee, and one of the things that I said in my testimony is that I would encourage Congress to fund the Rip and Replace initiative, to fully fund it. There's a lot of ways Congress could do that. There's one bill out there already that looks at reapportioning COVID dollars to do it. So there's different ways you can find the funding for that. I sort of defer to Congress on how to do it, but I do think that it needs to be done.
On the test labs, I'd be curious to hear how this issue came onto your radar. Were there actual vulnerabilities that were found in U.S. infrastructure because of some of these labs being seen as trustworthy, or is this more a preventative measure? Thanks.
Yeah, I think well, let me answer it this way. Again, as we've been sort of taking all of these actions, and we have been, checking more and more closely for, security in devices and equipment that come into the U.S., naturally, I started thinking about that process by which the devices come in. And if you look through the FCC's list of labs and TCBs, there's something like 160 that are based in China. And when you start to sort of do some review of a handful of those, there's a couple that immediately sort of stood out to me as raising at least concerns that is worth scrutinizing. Entities that have ties back to the PLA, entities that have ties to the CCP, obviously the instance of the Huawei lab itself. And so I think, that alone was enough for me to say, we need to at least start a proceeding to think about this issue, to seek comment on this issue. And at the end of the day, again, there's an option for the FCC to do nothing. But I think it was merited the agency taking a look through a rulemaking proceeding, whether we need a trustworthiness factor, how would we do it? And so that's sort of the genesis of this type of idea.
If I could ask a follow-up on the rip and replace, it seems like if more funds don't materialize to fill that shortfall, this de facto is going to be a wave of consolidation for the industry, where the strongest players get stronger and there's fewer of them. What do you think about that?
I don't know about that. I mean, there's no question there's a risk of gaps in coverage, gaps in service. You can replace maybe one cell sector, but not all cell sectors. I don't know that the lack of the $3.8 billion is going to be sort of attributable in a material way to consolidation. Anything else for the good of the order?
Not on that, but could I ask one other?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you support the proposed rule on disclosure of AI-generated content and political ads? Have you had a chance to review that yet?
I have read it, and no, I don't support it. And my plan is to put out a more detailed statement on my views in short order. So you'll have to stay tuned.
We get an idea?
Soon. Okay, thanks all. Appreciate it.